Okay, I'm back on the 2000 XL800. I did get the engine build completed. Got the engine in, got it running. It wasn't running well. I had to pull the carb off again, do some work on the carb. It's I don't know, the toughest thing for me so far has been messing with the carburetors. Well, I guess that's arguable. I want you to look inside here, the hull here. You show this blackish water. I ran this for about 15 or 20 minutes on the lake the other day. Cavitation issues horribly. So that means that the impeller clearance, either the impeller itself is bad or the ring that goes around the impeller, there's too much of a gap there. So it's cavitating horribly. So it doesn't pick up much speed. I was getting 7,000 RPMs. This is my original cylinder that came with the ski. This is another one that had a sleeve in it that I put in. So I was reading 120 PSI and a little lower on this one, about 115. When I checked it, I did this run. Obviously something's leaking, and the problem is in this cylinder that had the sleeve. This is a regular Nicosil, the one that was nothing wrong with it. I took these to a machine shop. I drove actually 3 hours there, and back, total 3 hours. Had him look at it. He said, "Hey, these are fine. Just go ahead and put it in and run it. You'll be fine." I said, "Well, can you run a sleeve and a non-sleeve?" He said, "Oh yeah, they do that all the time. No, don't worry about it." Obviously something's wrong. Maybe the sleeve is out. And I told him, it looks like the sleeve's a little off at the bottom. It doesn't line up perfectly. But something is wrong. The exhaust, obviously there's a leak. And I don't know exactly what it is yet. I'll have to get the engine apart to try to figure out the mystery. But also remember that I had the case repaired. So I've got that. Obviously a water leak with oil. And the blackness of it leads me to believe it had something to do with the exhaust system leaking. That's what I think. But this cylinder is down to 60 PSI. So something catastrophically failed in this cylinder. And I'm going to have to pull this whole thing out. Hopefully it didn't fill the bottom of the engine up with water. Even if it did, it's less than 24 hours. And I should be able to okay. I don't want to have to buy another crankshaft assembly. It should be fine. I'm going to have to get it apart. But I'm guessing there may be water in the bottom. We'll see. But something trashed this out. And also remember, those were some Taiwan pistons and some brand I have never heard of. And they had different rings that they weren't beveled. And they weren't, they had the one end of the ring fit into the other. Okay. So I'll find out. Did the piston fail? What failed? But in order to do that, this whole engine's got to come back out again. It's not a horrible job. That's one of the things I like about jet skis. It's a pain to have to do this after just getting it all back together, but they're not that difficult to work on. They're not that difficult to get the engine out of. If you're strong enough, you can just pick the thing out. My back isn't going to let me do stuff like that. I've seen people do it on videos, and they're all young people. Been there. I don't lift things like that anymore. But anyway, we'll get it apart. This was a colossal failure, and I did everything that I could do, except I did not run a pressure test on this engine before I stuck it in. I will be doing that from now on. Ericsson machine and performance videos. If you're going to work on jet skis, you need to check out his channel, because the knowledge that he's sharing on that channel will take your repair skills up. I mean, really, the guy knows what he's doing. And, you know, it's nice that that is a resource that is available now that we have YouTube and all this other stuff. So enough talk. Let's get this out of here and let's see what's wrong. Okay, we're out. It's really not that hard, just kind of aggravating when you think you've got a project done and it's not. Now I'm looking at my head gasket. I'm here at eye level because we're hanging. It's a water oil mixture that I got, and there's nothing obvious here. Nothing obvious at all. All of my seals, gasket, look good. So I think it's something internal to this cylinder. We'll see. And you can see my weld. It doesn't look like that weld failed or anything was leaking at that weld. So that's interesting. I got all this dripping down on the cover here because I was moving these around. You see I got them all nice and slimy from the oil water. Yeah, okay. I'm still going to go with the something went wrong in the exhaust, because when I pulled these boots off, I had a lot of, under here, I had a lot of liquidy black stuff from this inner boot here. And I think cracked exhausts are an issue with these Yamahas. Not positive, but I think they are. All right, we're going to have to get you down, get you on the bench, and rip it apart. I hate to do that, but it's got to be done. Get out of the light here. I'm trying to let the engine tell me the story. You can see right there, there's some run marks. Now that was sealing up the bottom of the cylinder. You can see the gold. So the engine's telling me the story. The leak came from above here in the starter, and I'm suspecting it was at the base of this somewhere. I got to get this exhaust off. But that's little clues like that that tell you what was going on. Because I know I didn't spray this. And it sure looks like something ran. So maybe the copper coat didn't allow that thing to seal properly. Huh? What's it look like? Don't know. It's very, very possible that what I used, because I did see some of that copper coat in and around this when I pulled it out, which tells me something was pushing that out of the way. So may not be needing to use copper coating on these engines. I've always used it in automotive applications. Well, this is a different animal. It's working on the Kawasaki just fine. Maybe I didn't let it dry long enough. Who knows? Anyhow, thought I'd show you. Okay, here's more evidence. You can see where the copper coat sealed in here. And then down here, you can see it was leaking between the gasket and the jugs. Like there was not a good seal there. I'm guessing the pressure or something was enough to blow this stuff out. Or maybe my gasket surfaces, I did clean them. But obviously this is on me. This is what I got. This black oily residue. And that's what ended up in my hull. Now I did put, you know, two-stroke in the, and I expected it was going to blow a lot of that out. Put two-stroke down in the bottom to lube everything. This has a real strong gassy smell too. Like the carburetor was leaking in it, fuel. So that was where the problem. This is where it was leaking. And like I said, I lost compression on this cylinder. And this one was okay, but not really as high as it should have been. But it was the same problem. So that stuff just wiped right off. That wiped right off all the copper coat. But if you'll notice where it's sealed, it doesn't just readily wipe off. So maybe it wasn't dry enough and it was kind of wet and the pressure just pushed it right out of there. So when I go back, I won't be using that. I won't be using the copper coat on this. Obviously it created a problem that didn't need to be there. All right, just looking at the pistons, I'm seeing some scratches on that one. This was running a little lower than the 120 that I was getting on this one. I'm guessing the loss of compression was coming through here. Regardless, this is going to be, at the very least, a full top-end rebuild and new gaskets all over again. So it's a lesson learned, and I will be pressure testing my block before I'll build one of those pressure testers that Erickson Machine tells you how to build on his channel. And of course you got to block off everything to do that test. I have to get plates to block this off. The only other alternative would be to find something big enough to block that whole thing off to do a pressure test. And then that would check even this gasket. I don't think I had any failure there. All my failure was right here at these. It was right there at those. And apparently was caused by me. And this is, good stuff to know. And I've heard that the mating surfaces on the Yamaha, everything is, you really should sand it. All I did was wire. We'll brush it like I've done with most everything I've ever worked on. But, all right. I'm going to probably just send my heads off, the jugs. Send those off and make sure they're right too. Because I don't want to do this again. And like I said, I want to sell a quality jet ski to somebody that wants a decent older running ski. That's my goal. Not to just throw something together and just try to get rid of it. That's not what I'm after, or not what I'm about. But I believe my bottom end is intact. I will be pulling these off and having a look. All right, getting further into this little dealie. Look at the head gasket. It just totally burned up right here already. Burned up, like heat burn. Let's get out in the sun. Look at that. This is only 15, 20 minutes of riding. I've never seen a doubled up head gasket like this. But also look at this. My copper coat is a slimy goo. I will not be using copper coat on these anymore. Look at that. All right. Well, the good news is my bottom end seems fine. I got all the stuff out of there. I'm going to put oil in it, drain it, drain it a couple of times and make sure there's nothing in there. But looks like my bottom end is tight. And I also did not use any copper coat on the bottom end, just from here up. I was using that stuff. Apparently, do not use Permatex copper coat. It's not going to work for you. We'll just go with what the gaskets themselves, and I'll make sure these surfaces are clean. Again, I take a little rag with some acetone and wipe everything down after I've finished the surface, and then go with the build. But it looks like I had fuel and oil. Luckily it wasn't enough to ruin my bottom end. But that's what it looked like. So that's what it looked like, fuel and oil. So that would mean the carburetor was leaking fuel into the in here as well, and that just ate up that copper coat and turned it into that gummy residue. So that was never used it on a 2-stroke. So that's not going to be something I put back on there. Anyhow, not a total loss, but something I need to look at. I did have the carburetor. It was running horribly when I first put it on. I had to take the whole exhaust back out and redo it. I'll have to take another look at this carburetor. My pop-off gauge didn't go high enough. I've got a Mikuni coming in. These are like 76, I think. 76 is the spec on this one. It's a really high pop-off. Really, really high pop-off pressure. And so I had to get a gauge with 100 PSI coming. And a big, it's got a bit longer pump on it and that sort of thing. Apparently you can make one out of a bicycle pump and some gauges if you're inclined to do so and save a lot of money. I'm tired. I am going to call it a day working on jet skis. It is Memorial Weekend, and I've had enough jet ski fun for today. I'll have to seriously take a look at the carb. I've obviously got an issue, and I'm not going to be able to tell what it is until I get that pop-off gauge, where I can get some pressure on these things, see what's going on. Must be a seat leaking fuel down. Bad O-ring, something. And it does have new kits in it, but they're not Mikuni kits. All right, I'm out of here.